The word meta, as I define it, or at least in the context of the division, can be understood as any strategy, action, or method used in a game which is practically and or mathematically superior to other strategies, actions, or methods when participating in any given activity. Basically, what is the best for what I am trying to do? That is the quote-unquote meta of the game. Today I'm going to discuss both past and present metas within the division, where I believe the future meta is headed, what I believe the intended and ideal future of the meta truly is behind the scenes, and why none of my opinions even really matter because of basic player mentality. So let's begin by talking about all the different past metas that the game has had so far. Now I apologize, I don't actually have footage of most of these different meta builds and meta playstyles because I wasn't even a content creator back when this was taking place. I've done my best to gather what I can. I'm mostly displaying one of the, what I believe to be future metas right here in the background. But I'm just going to be talking about, and anybody that played the game back then is going to be able to vouch for this, talking about the different mechanics that were widely utilized at the time of the different patches, while giving a brief summary of everything and every metagame that the division has had up till now. So we started off with the initial release of the game, the vanilla game, live at launch, and it was an SMG crit build meta. There was nothing else stronger. There was nothing else in terms of base guns that even had attributes on them. So crit chance on SMGs was the only thing worth getting, and everybody ran pretty much a vector with a crit build. Then we move forward to 1.1. We saw the release of gear sets, and then we had a weird situation where the sentry gear set would mark with automatic weapons. With the SMGs in particular, everyone was running a 4-piece sentry build with SMGs. Some people tried to gravitate towards striker, but mathematically it could not compete. So sentry became the all-consuming meta with the SMG gun archetype. After that, we moved on to 1.2, and something started to rear its head, and that was the tank-tician meta. There were ways to build your character so that you had a ridiculous amount of skill power and a ridiculous amount of toughness or health at the time, and you were able to run around and kite enemies in circles before launching this nuclear one-shot sticky bomb, and you were damn near unkillable during that duration, and you could one-shot people. If you spec 2 pieces of Final Measure, when that eventually did come out, you were able to, sticky bomb the ground and other players and yourself, and it was just kind of a skill power, super tank, one-shot skill build meta, which a lot of people despise, but yet a lot of people also really liked, and that will be part of the future discussion that we have. Moving on, after that, we had the 1.3 meta, which centered around one-shot shotguns. Now, it was the sentry gear set, it was the reckless chest piece, it was the M870, a lot of factors combined in patch 1.3 to create a one-shot shotgun meta, which again, a lot of people really hated. Characters would get folded over, basically due to the aim assist on consoles in particular, and I am a console main gamer, so that's why I always tackle things from a console perspective. It wasn't as much of a problem on PC as far as I could tell, but it was still an issue, and that was something that a lot of players found desirable and undesirable all at the same time, but that was the quote-unquote meta of the game, the one-shot shotgun. Then we moved on to patch 1.4. Now, patch 1.4 has also been heralded by a lot of players, including myself, as the best point in Division PvP thus far. There were a lot of different builds that we saw. There were a lot of different builds that were effective, but the metagame, quote-unquote, gravitated towards an assault rifle alpha bridge composition, which then became even more pronounced, dramatically so, in patch 1.5. During patch 1.5, the use and abuse of a certain exploit or bug, whether it be, I don't believe it was intended, but some people try and pass it off as such, the ability to use a sawed-off shotgun as your secondary, pop certain skills, and then achieve more than 6 talents on your guns with high amounts of enemy armor damage, created an assault rifle meta after they made some changes to the assault rifle variant archetype that became all-consuming. The DPS meta of assault rifle, alpha bridge, became something that everyone was running, and that is still true to this day. That is what we are on right now, because the live game of 1.6 has not launched yet. So we are currently in the assault rifle meta days. And if you look at the trajectory, and if you look at the past metas, we can sort of, draw this little connect the dots line that goes from SMGs over to skill builds with nuclear, bomb skills, that comes back over to shotguns, that then goes back over to assault rifles, and now is going to go somewhere else in the future. Another common thread with all of these previous metas has actually been the playstyle and the tactics employed by players while utilizing these given gear sets or gun archetypes. And that playstyle is hipfire, very close quarters combat, using a very specific set of talents, a very specific set of perks that incentivize that gameplay style, and it's only something that has had one change and one small snippet With any rule, there are exceptions. One little snippet of an exception, and that was when the skill balancing in the game was drastically out of whack, and you had people with extremely overpowered smart cover, so the only way to actually clear PvE content was to tag smart cover, and then people were using smart cover in PvP in very specific instances, and anyone that played during those days will know this, to tag it. You would go into cover for a split second and then exit cover, utilizing the buffs from smart cover during that duration, to then continue to fight 5 meters away from each other, whether it be hip fire or aiming down sights, but out of cover, very close to each other, spinning in circles like headless chickens. Now that we've talked about the previous metas in the game, it's important to talk about what I believe the future of the metagame will become, and that is a marksman rifle meta. That's something that I currently think would be beneficial to the game, but it's important to extrapolate why that is and for me to identify why I feel that way. I can't simply say it and then not back it up. Now, it's important as well to understand why it would become the meta, not just why I think it would be of benefit. The primary reason why it would become the meta spotlight is because of the Deadeye gear set. Now, I built the Deadeye gear set to pretty much min-max capacity within about 35 minutes on both Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the PTS. I had devastatingly good results, I was able to drop targets from range, and it offered me a playstyle that I found to be refreshing. But not only that, it deterred enemies from using a playstyle that I found to be detrimental to the health of the game. Now again, this is subjective. I want to make sure that everybody knows this. So a little disclaimer before I get into the meat of it, and I will try to keep it as short as possible and condense and distill the information down to just a few points. But please keep it respectful. I know that some of this may be controversial, and it is all subjective and opinion-based. I previously advocated against any sort of nerf, change, or downtune to the Deadeye gear set, but it's important for me, and after a lot of thought, to extrapolate why exactly I felt that way and the deeper meaning behind what I really didn't want to see changed. The important thing to know is that Deadeye has a tangible impact on other players' tactical gameplay. This is a cover-based shooter. And what I don't want to lose about the Deadeye gear set and a marksman rifle meta, that's the key part here, going back to the meta gameplay, is marksman rifles assuming a meta spotlight role. What I don't want to lose is the forced cover-based gameplay. For so many months now, we have had a very spastic, strafing, running circles around each other hipfire meta, and Deadeye punishes that gameplay. The ability to force enemy players to take cover when shot by a marksman rifle instead of just like putting down their horns, having a bull running towards a red cloth reaction, and then getting close enough to hipfire is really refreshing. Having them use terrain to break line of sight, having them flank, having them use alternative mechanics to gain distance and then drop me from a closer area is much preferred to the typical hipfire spam. I do not want to see the one gear set, the one tangible impacting factor right now, lose that value just because some players are not equipped to or incapable of or frankly unwilling to adapt their playstyle. Whether or not the gear set changes itself, the 2, 3, 4 piece bonuses, I could care less. But the impact that it's having, forcing other players to use cover-to-cover moves, forcing people to play more strategically, to be a little bit more passive, to understand their buff rotation, etc., in order to gain ground, is something that I think is tremendously valuable to the game. Now that we've discussed past, present, and probable future metas, let's talk about the utopian standard of metas, and that is true build diversity. This one is going to be kind of brief because it's probably not ever going to be fully realized. However, if we get very close and all the different mechanics have, relatively equal levels of power, I think that they will be able to compete, and I think that that would be the best end result. That, I believe, is what the companies are aiming for that develop this game. They want true build diversity, where every gun, every weapon, every perk, every talent, and every gear set can compete in different diverse ways, and that would be ideal. That would be phenomenal. However, it's not something that I'm going to harp on and not going to discuss in depth because it's just sort of that utopian idea. It's that thing that we all wish for and strive for, but in reality, the balancing is so complex that I don't think it will ever happen. But like I said, it is possible to get close. It is possible to make a large spread of things very valuable, very fun to play and can compete with each other. And that is something that we are headed towards. I have a lot of faith in the game right now, the trajectory it's on, the different balancing changes. I think that we're about to have the best PvP environment, the best metagame environment that we've had since the release of the game. I'm very optimal about that. I'm very hopeful and optimistic about that. So I would urge everyone out there to keep your chin up, keep a positive mentality, but that would be the utopian standard of perfection with every single mechanic being equal to each other. At the end of the day, let's be real. Not a lot of the things that I've said in this video even matter because players are always going to gravitate towards the mathematically best proven methods of accomplishing their goals. And there's nothing wrong with that. In every single iteration of the game, whether it be the crit SMG meta, the shotgun sentry meta, the one-shot sticky bomb tactician meta, it doesn't matter. There were players that genuinely enjoyed playing as that gear set or that weapon or that playstyle, and they picked it up because they actually had a fun time. Then there were the players that didn't. They didn't like fighting it. They didn't like playing as it. They were the people rejecting the meta. I tend to find myself in the second category a little bit more than the first. I usually like to reject the meta, find alternative ways to play, find off-meta things to showcase different mechanics that can be strong, and I will continue to do that and provide the best content that I can and that we can upper echelon to everyone out there that is of a like-minded, set of principles. You don't really like to run the meta, you like to find other things, you like to define your own playstyle, but for everyone out there, this is my opinions on what the meta has been and will become. All of my different thoughts on why I believe a marksman rifle meta will be good for the game, whether or not you enjoy marksman rifles, and my honest to God hope that we will find a metagame, because there always will be a metagame, that has the most amount of players possible content with how it functions. Whether or not it's something like the shotgun meta where very few people were super happy about it, or something like 1.4 where it was edging towards assault rifles, but a lot more people were happy with it because there was more diversity. I really hope that the next meta is one that brings people back to the Division and has a tangible and positive impact on the tactical cover-based gameplay and, overall improves the experience, because I do enjoy this game. I want to see it, played well and have fun, but I wanted to take the moment to talk about metagame, talk about, the term as a whole, where we've been, where we're going, and why I believe that the next iteration and hopefully a marksman rifle metagame will have a positive, tangible impact on the game. That's going to be it for the video, guys. Check out the links below if you want to support the channel, and join us on Facebook, Discord, or Twitch. If you have any questions, there's a lot of people that are willing to answer. We have some great communities going. We're looking into some more events. So again, check us out if you're interested. And as always, have a nice night.